Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, our dedicated federal workers deserve to get paid. And I'm glad this deal means that the government will reopen, that public servants will be returning to work, and that they will receive their paychecks, including back pay. And I'm also pleased that this deal will prevent Donald Trump from further delaying SNAP benefits for hungry children, senior citizens, and families, using hungry people as political pawns, which is what Donald Trump has been doing, is disgusting. But this legislation does nothing concrete to lower costs or protect health care for millions of Americans from MAGA Republican attacks. There's 22 million Americans who are going to see dramatic increases in their health care costs at the end of this year. 22 million Americans who are going to be very concerned about the health care of their families. I cannot support this deal. I cannot support a deal that does not say to those 22 million American families, including 337,000 of them in the state of Massachusetts, that we have not been able to reach an agreement here because Republicans refuse to come to the table to talk about their health care costs that are about to skyrocket, and for many of those 22 million families, skyrocket out of the ability of those families to even have health insurance. And this is on top of their housing bills, their grocery bills, their electricity bills, all of their day-to-day needs that are absolutely skyrocketing. And of course, if they can't already deal with all of those other bills, seeing those bills skyrocket thousands of dollars for their health care or tens of thousands of dollars for their health care because of the Republicans' decision to kill critical Affordable Care Act tax credits, are going to be devastating for those families. I have one constituent, Jeff from Natick, who right now, because of the health care tax credits, has a $30,000 bill for his stage 4 cancer drugs, lung cancer. If they expire, his bill is $300,000 a year. That's what we should be debating out here. And by the way, there are 22 million stories just like that that are about to hit American families. And this health insurance time bomb, coupled with deep cuts to Medicaid, will also be a brutal 1-2 punch which devastates community hospitals throughout the United States, leaving millions of Americans with reduced care or no care at all. So here's what we have right now. 22 million American families are starting to think about what's going to be on their table for Thanksgiving, just coming up in 2-3 weeks. And for all of them, they're saying, we're losing the tax subsidies, the tax credits that help us to pay for our health care bills. 22 million Americans will have that as their primary conversation this Thanksgiving. The Republicans who serve in the House and Senate, they're not going to have that conversation because their health care coverage is going to continue. So what about those 22 million American families this Christmas, this Thanksgiving, who are losing their benefits? What are the Republicans saying to them? Because they're going to be scared. They're going to be angry that they will not be able to afford this holiday or any holiday in the future because their health care bills are just going to be going up by thousands, tens of thousands of dollars a year, which they don't have. And again, it's in the context of their electricity rates, their food costs, their clothing costs. Everything is skyrocketing for them. And they're not getting raises that will help them to pay for it. 22 million American families. So let me just tell you, I heard from Laurie in North Truro the insurance for her and her husband is increasing from $6,000 a year to $26,400 a year. Who can afford to pay more on health insurance? Who can afford to pay $20,000 more on their health insurance and just get the notice now that it's over on December 31st and have the Republicans just walking away from that problem for Laurie and for 22 million other Americans? Now they're going to have to decide, do I take the funding from retirement savings? Do they just do without other things in their families' lives? Because $20,000 is a lot for a family who are not millionaires. Millionaires don't qualify for this tax credit. It's just regular families. It's middle-class families. That's who qualifies. And they just don't have 20 extra grand under the cushion that can pay for their health insurance. So this is a tragedy in the making, and one that we can't avoid. But let's not fool ourselves. Trump and MAGA Republicans have been shutting down the government since Inauguration Day. Gutting Medicare, gutting Medicaid, gutting the Affordable Care Act. That was their big vote in the first week of July of this year, 2025. Gutting, gutting, gutting. Medicare, Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act. They have been committing the greatest health care heist in history, and it's all to pay for tax cuts for billionaires. They're looting the health care for middle-class families, poor families, in order to pay for tax breaks for people who already have too much. The top 3 hedge fund managers in the United States have more wealth than the bottom 50% of our entire population combined. Think about that. And it's that bottom 50% that qualifies for Medicaid, that qualifies for the Affordable Care Act tax subsidies. That's who we're talking about right now. Those are the people who are going to be most negatively impacted. And the American people want us to stop this health care heist. They don't want Democrats to be driving the getaway car with all of those tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, which will just be transferred into the bank accounts of the wealthiest people in our country. So we should just be fighting for transformative policies to fix our broken healthcare system, bring us back from the brink of this crisis. That's what the American people want us to do. That's what they want us to fight for. And even when it's hardest, even when we're in the darkest moments, we have to remember what we are fighting for. A better future is still possible. One where one missed medical bill won't lead to bankruptcy. A future where families don't have to choose between a prescription and a meal. A future where malignant corporate greed in our healthcare system that shutters hospitals and endangers patients. A future where universal healthcare is taken for granted and not taken away. A future where families can afford their healthcare and their rent and their electricity bills and childcare and to save money for college or vacation or retirement. That is the future that we should be fighting for. But the American people did not see that from the United States Senate yesterday. So that's where we are right now. We're in the throes of a healthcare crisis. 22 million Americans this Thanksgiving will be at their tables, if they can even afford to celebrate Thanksgiving, looking at tens of thousands of additional dollars potentially on their health care bills. It's a catastrophe looming. The Republicans so far have refused to do anything about it. That's what we should be discussing. That's what we should be debating. How do we solve this problem? Instead, the Republicans are just punting this issue. They are absolutely ignoring the consequences for those 22 million American families. So I'll just say this. These families, they are scared. These families, they are angry. But I'll say this, in addition to those 22 million families, Tens of millions of other families are angry for them. They are pissed that people are going to be victimized by having their tax credits just be pulled away from them for their health care bills, and then that health care is going to be unaffordable for them. 22 million people and their families in our country. That is what we should be talking about here. And now the Republicans at the 11th hour are asking us to trust them that they will have a vote on extending the tax credits Americans rely on to afford their insurance. Remember when earlier this year Trump promised, we're not going to touch Medicaid? Remember that? Trump said, we're not going to touch Medicaid. 4 months later, he decimated it. Remember when Trump promised he would love and cherish Medicare? Then he slashed $500 billion from Medicare. How are we supposed to trust them? So to all of the Senate Republicans inclined to oppose a simple one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act, premium tax credits when a vote is held in December, credits that are hugely popular in both red and blue states, just remember that you do so at your own political peril. The American people are watching. They're angry. They want to know who is on their side. And they're going to remember your vote. They're going to remember your vote if you do not solve this problem. Thanksgiving is going to be the worst Thanksgiving ever for millions of families, knowing that they're going to lose their health insurance. And the Republicans can do something about it. And unless and until they do so, then we're about to hit a healthcare tragedy that was avoidable and that the Republicans have, in fact, created. This is a man-made crisis. And that man is the President of the United States, and the Republicans here on the floor of the Senate are following him blindly in a way that is going to result in harm to 22 million Americans and their families. So this is the moment, this is the time, this is the place, this is where people should be standing up to fight for those people. Health is the first wealth. Health is the most important wealth. Without your health, you have nothing. You have nothing. Everything else is built upon health. Everything. And the Republicans are taking away that health care from 22 million Americans. This is not the way to send families into Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is not the way we should be treating people. We're the wealthiest country in the history of the world. Yale University has made it very clear that 50,000 people additionally are going to die per year if all of Trump's health care cuts go into place. That's 500,000 people dying over the next 10 years if these health care premiums, if Medicaid is slashed. That's on this body. That's on this Senate. That's on the Republican leadership. And all I can say to you is that this is a mistake. It's an historic mistake. It's cruel. It's wrong. It's not what we should be doing to those who are most vulnerable, most in need in our country. And that's is what the Republicans are about to perpetrate upon this country. We're better than this. You can't have trillions of dollars in tax breaks for the wealthiest and then saying we don't have enough money for those who are sickest. You only have room for a tax break after you've taken care of the sickest people, the people most in need of health care in our society. That's when you have room for tax breaks for billionaires. The Republicans are doing just the opposite. First, tax breaks for billionaires. Then we'll see what's left over. Oh, they say, we can't afford health care for 22 million Americans. We can't afford to take care of their families because we don't have enough money. Why don't you have enough money? Because you gave the tax breaks to billionaires. You gave the tax breaks to millionaires. That's why you don't have enough money. And who are you going to take it out on? Who are you going to say all of a sudden with your green eye shades that you're really concerned about the federal budget deficit? You're going to take it out upon those who are least healthy, those most in need of help in our society? No, we're better than that. So this is a historic mistake. But just remember, the Republicans have always harbored an ancient animosity towards Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. They voted against all of those programs. And now with Donald Trump, they have an ability to gut them. And that's what they're doing. That's what they're doing. When they had a chance to stand up and say, no, let's be reasonable, let's keep the health care subsidies, which are most needed, they just are walking away right now. Donald Trump operates under Godfather Part 1 rules. He gives them offers they can't refuse. And we saw that with senators who tried to stand up to say, no, the Medicaid cuts are too deep. The Affordable Care Act cuts are too deep. Trump just called them and said, your career is over. You will not be a senator again. So now we're seeing the remaining senators who are here, who are Republicans. And they are just saying, whatever you want, Mr. Trump, whatever Russell Vought wants at OMB, whatever Stephen Miller wants, we'll do. We're not going to have a negotiation. We're not going to sit down. So before they cut the Medicaid and the Medicare programs back in July, did they negotiate with us? No, they did not. They refused to negotiate with Democrats at all. That's who they are. They saw their one opportunity to slash it once and for all. So all I can say is that we're in an incredible moment. The Republican House members still are not back in Washington. They've been in a 6-week witness protection program. They refuse to come back to Washington. They refuse to sit down. They refuse to negotiate. So we're witnessing Robin Hood in reverse. We're seeing money taken from the poorest and given to the richest. That's what this is all about. And what they're taking from the poorest and the middle class are their health care. It's their protections. So from my perspective, this is a mistake. It's a historic mistake. And it is a mistake that will come back to haunt the Republican Party at the ballot box next year. With that, Mr. President, I yield back.